It says we're live now. And like I say, I'm not always sure that it's telling me the truth when we're live because sometimes when I go back and watch it at the beginning, after it's over, I see that I was already halfway through a sentence before it actually went live. But that's why I'm not saying anything important for the first few seconds until I start seeing comments coming through, so I know that you all can hear me, first of all, and that we've got people online that are listening. How you doing, folks? It is about 8:45 p.m. in Jerusalem, and I'm not in Jerusalem. I'm actually in Tiberias on the northern shore, or northern part of Tiberias, on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. And I'm here because I'm on my way up to the northern border to try to get a sense for what's going to happen with Hezbollah during this ceasefire. Every journalist in Israel pretty much is around one of the hospitals trying to get a glimpse of some of the hostages that have been released, coming back to the hospital, coming in there and to get checked out. And I absolutely despise being a part of that scrum of journalists all fighting with each other, trying to get their shot, and everybody's getting the exact same shot anyway. And they're actually broadcasting it live on the AP, so there's no reason for me to go get it if you can watch it live on AP. I want to be the place where the other journalists aren't. And since they're not letting me into Gaza right now, which I have something interesting to say about that, I'm going up to the northern part of Israel to see if the ceasefire will hold up there. Because today, on my little app, I got a couple of alerts that there were rockets coming in from Hezbollah in Lebanon, coming across from the north. Now, I'm going to, hang on, if I lose you for a second, I got to turn my do not disturb on because people keep trying to call me to tell me that they're watching me on TV. Okay, so just a quick update. We saw a couple hours ago now the hostages being released. They were given to the Red Cross in Gaza. Red Cross then transferred them into Egypt and gave them over to the Israelis. The Israelis then surrounded them with Israeli special forces, taking them to an air base just inside Israel to get checked out, be able to call their families, and so on and so forth. And then they'll all be taken to hospitals in the country somewhere to be checked out. And so thank God that there's 12 Israelis that have been released and 13 Thai nationals that were released under a separate deal. So the Thai government made a deal through Iran with Hamas to release not quite half of the Thai nationals being held hostage. One interesting thing, and I actually misspoke on the last live that I did with CBN. I said there were a couple of American citizens in the group of hostages that were released into Israel that were dual citizenship Israelis. I was wrong about that. I had misheard my friend Daniel Cohen say that, and actually what he had said is that none of these hostages are American citizens, even though some of the women and children being held are American citizens. So we're talking about like this poor little 4-year-old girl or 7-year-old girl, I think, that is having her birthday today. And what a great, but she's an American citizen. What a great birthday present it would have been if they would have chosen her to be released. But none of the American citizens have been released. Now, I don't know about you, but I would say that that is a measure of how little respect or fear Hamas has for the United States. They could have included American citizens in this group, but they chose not to. And supposedly the United States, through the CIA and the State Department, have been part of these negotiations since the beginning. And yet the little girl who's having her birthday today wasn't on the list, it makes me feel like these guys don't have any fear of the United States. They're afraid of Israel right now because Israel is still very, very angry. That righteous anger has led Israel to lay waste to northern Gaza. We saw some footage coming out today of citizens going back into their homes in northern Gaza. I was under the impression they were coming from southern Gaza, but they're not actually being allowed through the checkpoints there. As I've done a little more research on it, these are people who were staying in safe zones that were designated by the Israelis in northern Gaza, who were walking back to their homes to check out what was left of them. And the footage was showing there's not much left of anything in northern Gaza. And the Israelis are sorry, not sorry. You know what I mean? The Israelis are like, we are going to continue doing this until we get all of our hostages back, and then we'll start talking about a permanent ceasefire, but not until then. The minister who is in charge of the war cabinet, his name is Benny, I just spaced on his last name, Benny Hidden. Oh my gosh, my brain is getting pretty fried. I've already created about an hour and a half of television tonight, and my brain is getting a little smoked here. Anyway, I'm sure one of you guys will let me know what Benny's last name is. Starts with an H. Oh, she's 4 today. Thank you. She's 4 today. Anyway, he's the head of the war cabinet, and he gave a speech to the families of the hostages today, and his was very, very good speech, very interesting speech, without a doubt. What he said was, look, I've been the defense minister, I've been in high levels of government throughout my career, and this was the hardest decision I have ever made. This decision to go ahead with the hostage exchange with Hamas is the hardest decision I have ever made, because I and everybody else knows that by negotiating with Hamas, we are legitimizing Hamas, and we're giving them we're allowing them to turn our hostages into currency, which in the long run very likely will end up, not Benny Hinn, it will very likely end up with creating more situations where they're taking hostages to get what they want from us. This is one of the reasons why Ronald Reagan said back in the 1980s that the United States does not negotiate with terrorists. Now, to be fair, the United States didn't necessarily negotiate directly with terrorists. Benny Gantz, thank you very much. That was making me crazy. They didn't necessarily negotiate with terrorists, but they did pay money for the successful release or for information leading to the release of hostages, which meant that we were paying people to go and talk to the hostage takers, the terrorists, in our stead, and arrange for those hostages to be released without us directly talking to the hostages. I'm not saying it was necessarily hypocritical on our part for doing that, but we all understand that when you pay a ransom, let's say, for somebody who's kidnapped, you incentivize criminals to kidnap more people because it becomes a profitable business. That's why in some places around the world, like Haiti and Somalia, kidnapping is the only growth industry because it works. People get money for kidnapping people. Well, if Hamas kidnaps people and they end up getting what they want, anything they want, including a cessation of hostilities from the Israelis, well, then they're incentivized to take more hostages. And so is everybody else that doesn't like Israel. So anybody, not just Hamas, everybody, every terror group, every criminal group in the world is now incentivized to take more hostages because they just negotiated with the terrorists and gave them a whole bunch of aid, a whole bunch of fuel, medical supplies, They gave them a rest and the chance to refit, rearm, and prepare the next attack. And they legitimized Hamas in the process. So obviously there is some, it's a double-edged sword. War is like that. War is just a whole bunch of bad choices, and the process of winning a war is trying to make the fewest bad choices possible. But all the choices in war are bad. War is tremendously wasteful. And somebody got angry at me and sent me a big long email about how dare you say that war is wasteful. Well, I'll just say that if you don't think war is wasteful, you've never been in a war. War is tremendously wasteful in terms of lives, in terms of money, in terms of material. How much better would all of those things be used if we saying, when I say that war is a waste, that wars can, that there's never a reason to go to war. That's not what I'm saying. So don't put those words in my mouth. There is a quote that used to hang on the wall of our barracks when I was in the Rangers back in the day that used to say, war is an ugly thing, but it's not the ugliest of things. The decayed and degraded state of moral and patriotic feeling which says that nothing is worth war is much worse. A man who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing more than his own safety, is a miserable creature who can never be free unless made and kept so by the efforts of better men than himself. And I've always remembered that quote because there is such a thing as a righteous war. And if ever there was a righteous war, Israel is engaged in one right now. Israel has to go to war with Hamas. They didn't want to go to war. Not one of those soldiers that's in Gaza right now wouldn't rather be somewhere else doing something else, out fishing with their families, spending Shabbat, resting and relaxing right now. But instead, they've got to be putting their lives on the line at war because of what happened on October 7th. Now, people say that there needs to be a ceasefire. You've got these ridiculous, absolutely intellectually dishonest or just plain deranged people all over the world who are marching in support of Palestinians right now and saying, ceasefire now, ceasefire now. Well, you know what? First of all, Hamas can have a ceasefire anytime they want. All they have to do is give up the hostages. That's number one. But number two, a ceasefire only works if it's both directions. And it's not. Hamas has been firing rockets literally every single day since October 7th and for decades before that. So even today, 15 minutes after the ceasefire was declared, Hamas fired rockets from southern Gaza into Israel. So if you want to talk about ceasefire, go talk to Hamas. Israel does not want to be at war. Do you think they don't have better things to do with their money? Do you think they don't have better things to do with their time? Half the economy shut down. We came to Tiberias today, and this woman at this hotel where I'm staying was almost in tears when we showed up and asked for a room because she said, it is so hard for us right now because there's no tourists here. The only tourists we're getting are people who are refugees that are being driven out of their homes in the north and in the south. And she's like, it is so hard for us right now. This is our livelihood. This little boutique hotel in Tiberias. This is the only way that we make a living. And so you know what? I think that Israel would rather be doing a lot of things right now other than laying waste to Gaza. But they are doing it because they have to do it. Because this is a time for war. And that choice was not made by Israel. That choice was made by Hamas. Okay? Do I know about Plato's Cave? Plato's Cave. No, I don't think I do. Send me an email. If you want to send me an email, send me an email at hotzoneholton@gmail.com and tell me all about Plato's Cave. I'd love to hear about it. Okay, so Hamas is not giving up these hostages out of the goodness of its own heart. Hamas gave up 12 hostages today, and 13 more Thai hostages for a total of 25. And those 25 women and children, this is not Hamas showing what a magnanimous, nice organization it is, although that's what they're trying to get the world to think. Hamas is weaponizing these hostages against Israel and against the West. They're trying to create division between two groups of people here in Israel. The group of people who says we've got to go hard against Hamas and keep fighting them until they are no longer a threat to us. And the group that says we've got to do whatever we have to do to get our people back, including giving a ceasefire to Hamas, okay? Well, what Hamas doesn't understand is that the Israelis don't have a problem holding both of those opinions at the same time. The Israelis understand that, we need to take whatever opportunity we have to get our people back, but we cannot stop until this job is done and until all of our objectives are reached, not just the objective of getting back our hostages. As a matter of fact, in some sense, getting back the hostages is a secondary concern to making sure that they never take any more of them. And if getting back our hostages comes at the cost of having to have more of our people taken hostage, that is something that we're willing to consider, but it's not ideal. And this is something that I'm learning about Israelis and Israeli culture, is Israelis are so tight-knit. They're a very tight-knit people because everywhere they look, there are people who want to destroy them. And so they have to be. They're a lot like the Ukrainians are now. When Russia attacked Ukraine, the Ukrainians went and got very, very patriotic and very unified as a people. But the Israelis have been that way for a long time. And although they argue about politics, and there are left and there are right, and there are people on all sides of every issue, the Israelis, they hold it very, very dear that we do not leave our people behind. If one of our people is taken, we will move heaven and earth to get them back. That's why when you see you look back at what happened in 2011, I think, with Gilad Shalit, he was held from 2006, this one IDF soldier. 2006 to 2011, he was held as a prisoner by the Palestinian Authority. And Hamas brokered the deal between the Palestinian Authority and Israel. And they ended up giving up 1,100 prisoners, Palestinian prisoners, most of whom were actually Hamas guys, for that one Israeli soldier. Now, would you call that a good deal? Giving up 1,100 to one? Well, nobody would really call it a good deal, but what it did was it showed the Israeli people, we will do whatever it takes to get our people back, even if it means trading 1,100 criminals for one Israeli soldier. That's the value we put on our own people. Now, I have to say, as an American citizen, it would sure be nice if the American president were to be that strident about his support of not leaving Americans behind. But, America has not gotten involved in this thing militarily. America has done very, very little other than pressure Israel to give up before it obtains its objectives. America has been inserting itself into this process since day one, but not necessarily, although they make all the right noises on TV, not necessarily in order to assist the Israelis at getting all their people back. What they want to do, what the Biden administration wants to do, is the Biden administration wants to placate his base, which is pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian, okay? You hear the fighter jets going overhead? I've been hearing a lot of fighter jets. Thank you for the I'm a fish, okay? Thank you very much for the donations. That's very kind of you. I think what I'll do is all of the donations I get on YouTube, super thanks and super chat, whatever this stuff is, tonight, I'm going to give to that lady as a tip tomorrow for this hotel room because her poor hotel is empty, and she's a retirement age lady, obviously living on a fixed income, and she was so grateful that we came and stayed in our hotel, begged me to stay more than one night. So I think what I'll do is whatever's given tonight on these super chats and super thanks, I'll donate to her and tell her that that came from my viewers tonight, and give her a little windfall. Okay, so I'm hearing these jets going overhead here in the northern part of Israel, and what that's making me wonder. Now, this is just an inference on my part. I haven't read this anywhere. I don't know this for sure, but what I believe is that Israeli fighter jets are doing missions into Syria because they're all going that direction, right? They're all going that way. Hey, there's $100 donation. Thank you, Jeremiah. We're gonna make this lady's night tomorrow morning when I check out. We're gonna make her day for sure. I'm hearing these jets. Can you hear them? There's jets going overhead, and they're all going that direction into Syria. And it makes me wonder if they're not taking advantage of the ceasefire with Hamas to go pound on targets in Syria, in Damascus, because Iran has been pushing a lot of arms into Syria to try to get them into Hezbollah and to the Syrian Islamic or Shiite militias from Iraq, and try to get them to start attacking Israel during this ceasefire. So I don't know. My biggest question about this ceasefire is this thing going to hold in the north, not in the south? I think Hamas has a lot of very good reasons. Thank you for the donations. Hamas has a lot of good reasons to maintain the ceasefire in Gaza. They are getting a tremendous boost right now of cooking gas, fuel, food, water, medical supplies, all of those things being allowed into Gaza, and you know Hamas is going to take them, right? So it's definitely in Hamas's best interests to maintain this ceasefire and make sure that it doesn't go. But they also probably figure they can get away with a few ceasefire violations here and there because Israel isn't going to just break the whole thing unless everything just blows up, because Israel wants to get its people back. The Israelis need this shot in the arm to see a little bit of success coming out of the battlefield. And I would tell you that success is coming directly because of the pressure that the IDF has been putting on the Hamas operatives in Gaza since the beginning of this invasion, prisoner swap. I mean, they went from 1,100 to 1 with Gilad Shalit to 3 to 1 in this case. And even 3 to 1 is not great. You know, it's not a great calculus, but it's a whole lot better than what they were originally asking for, which I'm told that the first offer that Hamas made was that they would give up 5 hostages for a 30-day ceasefire. And the Israelis are bound and determined that all the leadership is saying it. We are going to continue this fight. This ceasefire is going to continue, and we're going to go hard against Hamas, and we are going to accomplish. Thank you for that, Larry. We are going to go hard against Hamas. And the hardest part of this fight is what's to come, not what's behind them. Because taking Gaza City was a cakewalk compared to taking Khan Yunis, because they can't move the people out of the area like they did in the north. So there's still all these civilians around there, and they're going to tell them, okay, we're going to designate this area as an area for you to go to be safe in the south while we go fight in this area and destroy the infrastructure that Hamas has built over there. One of their biggest objectives is they're going to destroy the entire tunnel system just from scratch. I mean, this is a tunnel system that Hamas has literally spent more than a decade building, billions of dollars that could have gone to building roads and schools and bridges and highways and resort hotels. But instead, they've gone to building these tunnels, and Israel is committed to absolutely decimating that tunnel system. There will be nothing left of it when they get done. But in order to do that in the South, they're going to have to work around a couple million people. And that is not going to go easily, especially considering the fact that what we've seen, that Hamas is happy to use human shields. They're happy to do that. And so, as a matter of fact, the leader of Hamas in Qatar, this putz, this guy's a dead man walking, let me tell you. The Mossad is gunning for that guy. The leader of Hamas said today that the price of freedom for the Palestinians is lots and lots of martyrs. And he doesn't mean, when we say when we say something like that, what we mean is that you've got to shed the blood of patriots. You've got to shed the blood of soldiers, of combatants in order to have freedom. But what he means when he says that is that we've got to shed the blood of innocents. Our own innocent, $400 that she's going to get tomorrow for a $130 hotel room. She's going to be on top of that. What I paid for the hotel room already. So she's going to be really excited. This is going to be great. Folks, if you want to follow all of my reporting, and I'm also, if I refer to a video like the video of these Gazans that are going back to the north, or the video of Israel blowing up the tunnel systems in Khan Yunis, I think from the inside out. I'm not sure how they did that. If you want to see those videos, I'm going to be putting those up on my locals page. So if you go to chuckholton.locals.com, and you can subscribe there, and I'll be putting those videos up for you to see what I'm talking about. And so keep an eye on that. You can also find links to my books, links to my most recent movie that just came out. It's called Armenia: A Love Story. I just posted a link yesterday or day before, I think, about my documentary that I made about the terror threat coming across the northern border of the United States from Canada, which is, pretty relevant, as we just had this terror scare with this car that blew up on the border crossing between Canada and New York. Now, Governor Kathy Hochul from New York says that that was not a terror attack, that there's no evidence that it was terror related. And that's after the FBI was coming out and saying that it was there. They did have evidence that it was part of a terror plot, and they were seeking a second vehicle that they thought was involved. Now they're saying it didn't have anything to do with terror. I'm not sure I believe that, to tell you the truth. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and but I'm just saying that from what I saw in the videos that came out of the explosion, I'm not sure how a car could create a fireball like that if it did not have some accelerant in that vehicle. Or they must have been just absolutely booking. And why would they be driving so fast up to the border crossing? Wow, folks, we are at $471.08 in donations for this lady today. And thank you very much for that. We're going to make her month here. That's going to be great for her. So let's talk about, again, Hamas weaponizing these hostages. There's two ways they're doing that. Number one, they're trying to create division among the Israelis. And number two, what they're trying to do is terrorize the families even more by they said, oh, it's going to be these people, and then they said, no, we're not going to release those people. Are going to be different people. They've changed the names. They pushed it off an extra day. I think part of that was because negotiations almost broke down over the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu came out right in the middle of these, right as they were finalizing the negotiations with Hamas for this release. He came out, by the way, we're going to go very hard and we're going to assassinate all of the Hamas leadership wherever they are in the world. And the Hamas leaders went, oh, wait a second. You've got to retract that statement and say that you're not going to target us or we're not going to do this deal. And Israel said, fine, we won't do the deal. And then Hamas came back and said, okay, we will do it. But it delayed it a day. That's a guess on my part. I think that's probably had something to do with the fact that they had to wait a day. But by waiting a day, Hamas further terrorizes the families and uses these hostages as a weapon. So not only are they being used as currency, but they're being used as a weapon. This is a very common tactic you see by despots and terrorists around the world. That's when you punish people who are not responsible for the thing that you're mad about. You're a terrorist. That's all there is to it. And so to pretend you're not a terrorist or to pretend that this is what they're trying to do, the West. And not only against Israelis, but they're weaponizing them against you and me. Because by ready pressure coming out against Israel, Egypt, from Qatar, from Spain and Belgium, both today, made statements that absolutely incensed the Israelis because they didn't put any responsibility on Hamas for what's happening in Gaza. I keep doing this. I keep doing this on Twitter. I'll see people say, the UN came out and said, Gaza is the most dangerous place on earth to be a child right now. And they might be right about that. But that's kind of a straw man. The fact that it's the most dangerous place in the world to be a child right now, what they're inferring is that the reason is because Israel is bombing Gaza. But the reason that Israel is bombing Gaza is the real reason why it's the most dangerous place to be a child right now. And that's the attack that happened on October 7th. Do you know that there have been 9 truces, 9 ceasefires or truces between Hamas and Israel since 2008? Let me say that again. Since 2008, there have been 9 ceasefires, truces between Israel and Hamas. And do you know who's broken those ceasefires every single time? Hamas has broken them. Israel abides by the ceasefires that they make and has a history of doing so. But, and not only that, I mean, look, Israel gives every indication of being a civilized country. They treat the wounded of their enemy in their own hospitals. They treat the women and children. They treat the sick and the injured, people who need specialized medical care from Gaza. They have been getting treated in Israeli hospitals for free for decades. How many Israelis who need medical care have been given medical care by Palestinian doctors anywhere? Like none, okay? Holy cow, this lady's gonna have a really good day. We're up to $865 for this lady, folks. No, this is not Lake Mansion. This is, do you remember what this place is?
Place. Her name is Anat.
It's called Anat's place. The lady's name is Anat. And she's a like handicapped older woman who has this, it's an older hotel here, but it was one of the cheaper options for us here tonight. The only things that are open that are not being completely taken up as far as hotels go by refugees are the places that are like $600 a night. And I wasn't going to pay that, even if it isn't my money, even if it's CBN's money. But so we stayed in this place because it was $130 a night. And this nice handicapped lady that runs this hotel, it's very clean, very simple, very Spartan, but it's fine, exactly, no problem for what we need. Thank you very much, Rodney. And so she's gonna have a really good night because we're giving her about $900 at this point on top of what we paid her for the room, and she's gonna be blown away. She's not really gonna be sure how to handle that, I think. But thank you all for doing that. It is so much fun to let you reach through the technology here and not just make the news, but make the news better for the people who are being affected here on the ground. You're doing that. And that's what the Hot Zone is all about. And I love it. I love it. So thank you very much for being a part of it, folks. Again, if you want to do that, whatever, these colored chats, we're going to give to the owner of this hotel, who almost burst into tears when we showed up tonight, because she said they've been really struggling for the last month and a half because they've had no tourists. And this is their high season. This is when they make the majority of their money for the entire year, is the high season. And there's no tourists here right now. So praise God for you all. Let's see if we got some questions that I can add. Let's see. Man, thank you all for the donations. That is really great. Let's see. What happened to the hospital administrator? Is he in jail? Marie, the hospital administrator has been arrested and he's being interrogated because, and specifically because after the war started, he was going on television, giving interviews and saying, in my hospital at Shifa Hospital, there are no Hamas terrorists in my hospital, and the basement underneath is not being used as a command center. And they're not only found that he was lying about that, but also lying about the fact that there were no hostages in his hospital, because they have video footage of some of the hostages on October 7th being taken through the hospital by armed Hamas fighters. So he was lying about that, and they want to see what else he was lying about. Now, I've seen some people saying in the media that, well, there's no proof that these bunkers underneath the hospital were actually being used as headquarters. And in fact, Israel admitted to having built the bunkers under the hospital. Well, again, there's another straw man. I don't think it really matters that Israel, and yeah, it's true, Israel admitted that they helped to build the bunkers underneath the Shifa Hospital. That doesn't mean that they have built the tunnel system that connects that bunker with everywhere else underneath Gaza. Israel has not been built and never built tunnel systems under Gaza, but they did help build the basement of the Shifa Hospital, which was being used as a place to store weapons. That's been proven. And they say as a headquarters, if not the main headquarters, one of the headquarters of Hamas officials from which they were planning the October 7th attacks. They say, ironclad evidence that was the case. They showed video of the tunnel system connecting to the hospital. That, again, whether they built the basement of the hospital, it doesn't matter. The fact that it was being used by Hamas in the course of their attacks, their planning and that sort of thing against Israel, makes Shifa Hospital technically a legitimate military target. Okay, the argument that, well, Israel built the bunker under the hospital, therefore it's Israel's fault. No, it's not Israel's fault. They built a bunker under the hospital to help increase the space available for Hamas under there, and they certainly didn't intend for Hamas to store weapons under there. And under the International Code of War, that goes against the humanitarian ethics of and makes the Shifa Hospital a legitimate target for the military, for the IDF. Now, wow, did we just cross $1,000? Wow, we did. Holy cow, honey.
I know, baby, I know.
This is awesome. So this lady's gonna have a really, really good day tomorrow, folks. Okay, I saw, let's see here. I saw a question go by. Let me back up a little bit and try to answer that question. I've got to keep an eye on the time. Babe, don't let me go more than about another 7 minutes. Have I heard of any U.S. Special Forces in Gaza? Yes, I think I can safely say, without telling bad people things they don't need to know, The U.S. Special Forces have been on the ground in Gaza searching for some of the American prisoners. That would be my guess as to the motives of them being there. The fact that they have been there, I think, is a documented fact, or at least a well-known secret. But yes, okay, here's another question. Do I think Hamas will use the condition of the hostages as leverage and sympathy? Hamas is going to use these hostages and the release of these hostages in every way possible to try to extend the ceasefire indefinitely. That's Hamas's only goal right now, is to get Israel to stop killing them. And their only hope of surviving as an entity is to get enough world pressure to come to bear on Israel that Israel will stop fighting before they wipe out Hamas completely. Now, I'm not, when Israel, you have to understand this, when Israel talks about wiping out Hamas, they don't necessarily mean they're going to try to kill their way out of this problem, because the vast majority of the military-age males in Gaza are either Hamas fighters or supporters of Hamas fighters, or have been, at least until they saw that Hamas was going the way of the dodo. So the fact that, I mean, Israel is not going to try to go in there and murder every military-age male in Gaza. When they say they are going to dismantle Hamas, what they mean is they are going to go in and they're going to take out every piece of infrastructure that allows Hamas to attack Israel, which means they're going to look for every weapon they can find and destroy it. They're going to look for every rocket they can find and destroy it, every launch site, every headquarters, and every single tunnel under Gaza is going to get destroyed. We're talking about more than 300 miles of tunnels that are going to be destroyed under Gaza. And that will be an absolute death knell for Hamas as an entity, okay? Now, whether or not they reconstitute under some other name or even under the same name, they're not going to have the capability to attack Israel with what they're left with when this is all over. And if that requires turning Gaza into a parking lot, but just a pile of rubble, then that's what Israel is committed to do. And that has nothing to do with how many people they're going to kill. On that topic, I want to mention the fact that you keep hearing the media say, and they just say this, and the way that they say it, they're trying to convince you that this number is real. That there have been something like 37,000 people injured in this conflict inside Gaza, 6,000 children killed. I think the last number they came out with, it was over 14,000 people dead inside Gaza since Israel started its invasion. You can take all of those numbers and just throw them right out the window, folks. Listen, there have been a lot of people that have died in Gaza since the beginning of the war. There have been a lot of people injured in Gaza since the beginning of the war. Some of those people have been children, without a doubt. Again, Israel is not to blame for any of that, because none of it would have had to happen. This is what we call a righteous conflict on the part of Israel, okay? They have got to do whatever it takes to safeguard their people. But the numbers that Hamas is putting out through the Gazan Health Ministry, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Hamas, the numbers are without a doubt 100% intended to evoke a reaction from the world. They're very much intended to create pressure on Israel to stop the bombing. Now, I would venture to say that wouldn't even necessarily be necessary to do. Like that Hamas doesn't even need necessarily to inflate the numbers of dead and wounded. They could, and I would venture to say, I would submit to you, Hamas has literally no idea how many people have actually been killed or wounded inside Gaza. since the war started. And I would also venture to say that they could give a rip. They don't care. The bigger the number, the better, as far as they're concerned. They have literally said that. Their leadership has said that they want the death toll to be high. They want the number of children dead to be high, because they are willing to sacrifice as many women and children and civilians as necessary to gain their independence from Israel. But gaining their independence from Israel, you have to ask yourself, what does that mean? Because they had independence. Hamas was ruling Gaza for the last decade or more. Hamas has been ruling Gaza 100%. There have not been any Israeli soldiers or government officials inside Gaza. Sure, they wouldn't allow trade between Israel and Gaza, but you know what they did allow? They did allow water to go into Gaza from Israel. They did allow electricity to go into Gaza from Israel. Israel was providing the electricity, at least part of it, for Gaza. Israel was processing the sewage from Gaza. The sewage treatment plant for Gaza is in Israel, folks. Okay? And guess what? Israel, and nor does any country, Israel does not have any responsibility to provide any kind of aid or comfort to their enemies, to the people who are trying to annihilate them, right? I mean, so when you hear the media parroting these numbers that Israel has killed 14,000 civilians inside Gaza. No, they haven't. They haven't killed those people. They haven't killed anywhere near that many people. I guarantee it. But nobody knows what the actual numbers are. I just promise you that they're not that high. Okay? All right, folks. So I've just got, well, actually, I was supposed to be done about a minute ago, but I'll see. What's that?
What's the total?
We are at $1,300 that we're going to give to this lady tomorrow. She's going to be blown away, folks. Why did the IDF allow Gaza men to go to the north? Okay, so Robert, that was a misstatement on my part when I was on the CBN live a while ago, and I corrected it earlier in this one. I don't believe the IDF is allowing anybody to move back north. They have closed off that wadi, the river between the north and the south in Gaza, and they're not allowing Gazan civilians to pass through their lines to go back north. What we saw that was initially reported as people going back north was people that never left the north to begin with. They just went to one of the safe zones, like out on the beach or whatever, that was designated by Israel. And those people are going back into their neighborhoods to try to see what's left of their homes. Those people, that's the video that we saw. So no, the IDF was not allowing them to do that. Patty, let's see. All right, folks. Okay, Patty, that answered your question, I think. Okay, let's see. Patty kept asking that question. You kind of need to do that. Okay, I answered Boomer's question too. Patty asked it again. And Patty really, really wanted to know the answer to that question. Since the October 7th, have all the Israeli towns outside Gaza been fortified with troops for protection? Well, let's just say security is much higher than it was. Yes, there are Israeli reservists guarding all of the kibbutzim along the border, but most of the villages anywhere near the borders, either in the north or in the south, have been evacuated for the most part. And the only people there are people who are part of either the IDF reservists or the local security forces, like they have kind of like neighborhood watches on steroids that guard those places. I've visited a couple of them and talked to those people. And so those are pretty much the only people that are left. Now, the IDF or the Israeli government did not force anybody to leave, but what they did was they incentivized people to leave by saying, we'll pay for your hotel at the beach in Eilat or here in Tiberias if you will leave your home until this thing settles down. Okay, let's see another question here. Please read Acts 12 about Peter in prison. Okay, I will go read Acts 12 about Peter in prison. Can't guard everything and fight Gaza. Does Jordan let you in if you have an Israeli stamp in your passport? Well, Israel does is Israel doesn't stamp your passport. What they do is they give you a. Do you have my passport? Is it? It's in my bag. What they do is they give you a ticket that you slide into your passport instead of stamping your passport. So that ticket then serves as your stamp, and when you leave, you can throw that ticket away, and then you can still go anywhere with your passport. But I don't think Jordan would keep you out if you actually had a stamp. But I know that a lot of Arab countries around the world won't let you in if you had a stamp. The reason why I don't think Jordan would keep you out is because you'd be entering Jordan from Israel, like in many cases, so it's not like they're not going to know you were in Israel. Israel and Jordan have pretty good relations, and I've been going back and forth a couple times now. I left through Amman and went and got my family last week, and then came back through Amman and crossed back into Israel from Jordan. And I'm going to go next week and go back to Amman again to drop my daughter off at the airport, and then come back here again and spend another couple of weeks in Israel. So I will be here until about mid-month in December. And we'll keep on going, folks, as long as we can. So thank you very much. We raised $1,400 for this nice old lady who runs this little boutique hotel here. And so thank you very much for doing that. That's going to be very, very, very nice. Do you plan on interviewing any English-speaking IDF servicemen? I have interviewed quite a few English-speaking IDF servicemen. Do you mean get them on my live with me? That would be a little bit difficult because you have to go through a process to interview anybody that's an IDF serviceman. They can't just talk on camera without getting permission. You understand how that works? So they've got to go through their IDF spokesman, and he's got to go through the national spokesman, and it's a difficult thing. What I am going to try to do is maybe get Jonathan Conricus on a YouTube like I've done with Tim Miller the other day, or somebody like that who is a spokesman that is allowed to talk on camera. I can talk to all the IDF soldiers I want, but I can't do it on camera. But then I can come tell you what they said, and that's going to have to suffice for now. All right, folks, I'm going to go. Like I said, please go support my work. You can go sign up on locals.com. You go to chuckholton.locals.com, and you can subscribe over there and support my work around the world. I'll be doing a tremendous amount of reporting on the immigration crisis. I'll be doing more reporting from Ukraine. I go to 25 hot zones around the world every year. And this year, I'm spending a lot of time in Israel for obvious reasons, but you can keep up with all of my travels and all of my reporting by subscribing over at chuckholton.locals.com. I really appreciate all of you. God bless you. I've got another live broadcast coming up in just a few minutes on Newsmax, so you can go watch me over there if you like. And again, tonight on Greta Van Susteren's show, I'll be reporting live on Newsmax over there. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern time. So God bless you all. We'll see you again tomorrow. And I will let you know, I'll try to film what this lady, or what her reaction is when we give her $1,600. When we give her $1,600 tomorrow and say, this is from the viewers of the Hot Zone, I will film that, and I will put the video up on my locals page over at chuckholton.locals.com. So you can see what her reaction was when she got the money. God bless you all. Take care. We'll see you later. Bye.